Hello, this is a little explanatory moment to explain linking quotes to other stuff. Often you will need to link quoted evidence to either claims or larger significances or even to interpretations that are maybe either a little unusual or maybe they just simply have to be said because it's part of what you need to be doing. Take a look at this. This is from Health Secrets from the Morgue by Nathan Perry. No, I can't remember the guy's name. Somebody Perry. I'll have to look it up. First thing tomorrow morning, I'll report to my general practitioner for a thorough physical. Once you've seen someone's guts in a bucket, it's difficult to think of your skin as anything but a bag full of trouble. Now stay with me because I'm going to invent a context for why I would choose, especially the latter half of that little passage, as significant. So I'm going to choose that last little phrasing, your skin a bag full of trouble, because I think these are the most important parts of the quote. They're the most significant. So already I'm thinking in terms of paraphrasing it just so I understand what it means. Your skin is the thin membrane that protects you, and a bag full of trouble, sack with a bunch of problems inside. Now I'm just changing it into my own language. I'm holding to what the original meaning is, right? So I'm not trying to interpret a bunch of deepies in there. And let's say the significance I'm after is sort of a rhetorical significance, which is that this is an example. Maybe it's one of a long list of examples of short persuasive metaphors that I think this piece is important, or it's important because of the short persuasive metaphors. So here's an example of sort of a first crack at that draft that I took just to use that evidence, and notice that this is kind of long to get all the parts in. Finally, Perry, at the end of the article, dispenses the curt wisdom that after seeing a full autopsy, so I'm giving a little context there, seeing a full autopsy, it's difficult to think of your skin as anything but a bag full of trouble. There's the quote. Without lingering, Perry once again metaphorically collapses the article to point to the thin, problem-filled membrane we all share. You can see that some of the language that I previously pointed out comes in. Now, I'm just going to map the linking vocabulary here. So, obviously the, what do you call that? Paraphrase. Yes, paraphrase. Corresponds to this material down here. Here, it's a little harder to see, perhaps on first read, where how the significance ended up in that little passage I created. Dispenses the curt wisdom down here, right? So curt is something that's short, and wisdom I saw as persuasive. I'm seeing wisdom as persuasive, so it's building a context for my own point. And then metaphorically collapses would be the metaphor, and then collapses again goes with the short, the article, right? So you can see that I've changed the words, but there's definitely a link to the significance that I'm trying to get across. So if I had a generalization that used the language short persuasive metaphor, this then would be the linking vocabulary that takes it back to that generalization. Okay, now the underlined words, if you pay, I'm not going to move anything or be fancy here, but example and corresponds to finally or once again in the context that I'm imagining. So if it's a list of examples, when I say finally, that would link and let you know, hey, this is the last example I'm dealing with, and once again also then sort of would be extra pointing outside this little passage I've created. Here's a rewrite of that puts it all in one sentence. And you'll note that, final summative metaphor. I don't know if summative would be good to point to a previous example. In other words, if this is a long string of examples, I'm not sure summative would necessarily be the linking vocabulary to that. So that's the reason I put a question mark there. My context is fuzzy. If this was part of a larger piece, I would know. But final is probably a reasonable expectation. And then persuasive is pulled directly from the significance there, and then the bluntness. So short is blunt, right? I probably should have marked metaphor there as well, and you could include forward if you wanted to in sort of, that's providing evidence of its shortness. And then you can see the comparing our protective membrane to a problem-filled sack. I just combined the paraphrase, declaring that it's difficult to think of your skin as anything but a bag full of trouble. The nice thing is I'm ending on the author's words, which I think are particularly effective. So I put it in a participial phrase, starting with declaring. The word declaring starts a participial phrase, declaring that it's difficult to think of your skin, etc. Okay, I hope this helps start to show you how you can stick things in two or even one sentence to get sort of all the parts needed to build a full context for delivering quoted evidence and kind of explicating it a little bit. It's always better to explicate and slow down a little bit than it is to run through stuff. And this is especially helpful on responses or in arguing for particular things, or to do any sort of analysis that involves language when you're talking about language and its effects, which you do if you're analyzing rhetoric or analyzing style or anything like that, or even analyzing organizational principles of a particular piece. All right, thanks for your attention.